Okay, so here we go with the lecture number 35, and we will start a discussion on a new topic. So, essentially where we have stopped, we have looked at discretization of the diffusion equation, pure diffusion equation, then we have looked at convection diffusion equation, then we discussed about high resolutions higher order scheme and their formulation, implementation in the finite volume framework, and then we have also discussed the unsteady or transient formulation. So, up to this we are done. Now, before moving ahead and discussing about the fluid flow problem, which has slightly different level of complexity, we want to discuss few more issues, or rather small issues which are associated with the discretized equation. One of them would be source term, then we can also talk about certain iterative methods where the under relaxations are used. So, all these relevant things which will be pertinent to the complete finite volume solver or a linear solver, that we will discuss, and after that discussion gets over, we will straight away move forward for discussion of the fluid flow problem, where we will start discussing the Navier-Stokes equation. And as I said, why it brings the extra level of complexity, that because in the Navier-Stokes solver it has all the unsteady term, convection term, diffusion term, source term, as well as it has the pressure gradient term. So far what we have discussed while discussing even the unsteady convection diffusion system, we have not looked at how to discretize the pressure gradient term, or rather the coupling between flow field and the pressure gradient. So that brings the extra bit of complexity while looking at the fluid flow problem through Navier-Stokes equation. So that is the idea, and that should be the towards the end of the course. Now, as I said, let us start looking at the source term discretization. So now, one see, this is a particular element which we have been considering throughout our lecture. I mean, typical element where you see the center of this element is C, and so it has a source term of Q, and it is associated with 5 different phases, F1 different 6 different elements and 6 different phases. So F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, and these are the corresponding connecting phases. So we need to calculate the, so the once you do the integration over this element C. So for element C, the discretized equation, we are not going in the detailed derivation of this, because we have done enough throughout the lectures how we start from the equation, take an volume integral, then convert that to surface integral and get back the, I mean initially the semi discretized form, and from there to the discretized form. So we will now to some extent, as we go along with the lectures now onwards, we will straight away start writing the discretized system, because we hope that this time, by this time you are comfortable with that kind of thing. So for element C, the discretized equation should look like AC phi C plus F NBC AF phi F equals to QC VC. So that is a standard generic discretized form, where the source term QC for this particular element. Now, typically this source term is a function of phi C, which would be a function of this variable. So if it is a function of that kind of, then it can be explicitly calculated based on the available information of this phi value at the cell center, but which in an iterative process could be a representation from the previous iteration. Though we can calculate it explicitly, but the information will come from the previous iteration. Now, if the source term is constant or relatively small, then the variation of QC is large in comparison with other terms in the equation, the rate of convergence can be negatively affected. In that kind of situation, to improve the rate of convergence, so essentially what it means that if it is small or constant may not be a problem, but if the variation is large, then there is a problem, because it can add to the stiffness to the system. So, the convergence rate of the iterative solver may not be a big issue, but large variation, this can lead to slower convergence rate, and that could be a big hit in the iterative process. So, what one can do that time to reduce the stiffness of the system, one can use some sort of an Taylor series kind of expression, linearize the system. So, for example, let us say if one writing Q phi c, you can write Q phi c star plus del Q by del phi c star into phi c minus phi c star, which is taking only the first term, not considering any other higher order term. So, this one can write Q by del phi c star into phi c plus Q phi c star minus del Q by del phi c star phi c star. So, this is the implicit part, and this guy could be explicit part, and this can be calculated based on the values from the previous iteration. So, this is based on values from previous iteration. So, this is easily possible to calculate like that. So, one component comes as implicitly, other component comes as explicitly, and one can actually calculate that. Now, once you look at in the control volume context, you have a term which is sitting there as a QC Vc. So, the QC Vc, which is nothing but the volume integral of Q dV, which one can now write Vc del Q C star by del phi c into dV plus second component Vc QC star minus del QC star by del phi c star dV. So, using this we get the integration done, and once you do the integration, it will like QC Vc equals to del QC star divided by del phi c Vc phi c plus QC star minus del QC star by del phi c star Vc. So, that is what you get, which you can think about the two coefficients linearization like flux Cc phi c plus flux Vc. So, that way one can think about that. Now, once you put this back in the algebraic equation, that looks minus flux Cc phi c plus summation of NBC AF phi f equals to flux Vc. So, that is what it get you back. So, you take now in this particular formulation the implicit part of that flux Cc which is here, this required to be negative to guarantee the diagonal dominance. From here one can see to have diagonal dominance of the iterative solver, this guy has to be negative, or else the stability Scarborough criteria may not be fulfilled, which can lead to the divergence of the iterative solver. So, this is a restriction that to have diagonal dominance, this flux Cc must be less than 0, otherwise there would lead to a problem. Now, top of that, when the value of phi is positive definite, the explicit part which is here flux Vc must be positive to ensure the positive prediction of phi. So, these are some information which one can think about. Now, the other thing that when you talk about these iterative solvers, so essentially here we are only talking about the performance of the iterative solver. So, that essentially the important quantity is the performance of that solver. Now, performance has to do with two conditions, I mean all sort of convergence, stability, all this would come under that, but essentially what is important is that when you talk about the iterative solver, as we have seen in details, there some sort of a under relaxation is very much necessary. Now, one can now see also why is that required, and probably as we moving ahead with the discussion in this lecture, you can see when we start doing the Navier-Stokes equation or the fluid flow problem, and that time you can see why this becomes so important to get a converged solution using some iterative process, because here only we are talking about a source term and that can make the system really stiff, and if the system is stiff, exactly the prime example sitting here, you got this coefficient matrix which will finally your linear system is like that, and this A will have some coefficients from this guy and there is a restriction on flux Cc. So, that has to have certain properties. If they do not satisfy, but this is a implicit part which actually comes from the linearization calculation of the source term and which uses the values which are available in the nodes or the elements. So, this is not having something that user has too much of control, it may be dependent on the physical problem, how it evolves in the system, and that can lead to certain issues, but while it is evolving, this kind of conditions like the as we stated here, they need to be satisfied. If that does not happen, this guy will no more remain diagonal dominance, so that will have a hit on the iterative solver. Now, so one more thing also people do, that is or heavily used in often in the CFD codes or the rather the codes which are dependent on finite volume approach, and along with the iterative solvers they use it under relaxation. And so, what it effectively does, it reduces the stiffness of the system and the solution slowly convergence towards the actual solution. So, that is why it becomes very important. Now, since it is important, we can see how we do this kind of system. For example, we can start with an explicit under relaxation. So, when you say that explicit under relaxation, then the method at end of every iteration the new solution is obtained, and the new solution is actually not modified with the completely the one which is obtained. So, certain percentage of the new solution is updated with the old one. So, after the new solution is obtained, all cells in the computational domain are revisited, and the predicted value, which is let us say the new value, which is phi new, and that predicted, so that can be used to modify, let us say phi c new used will be phi c old value which is sitting there plus some lambda factor multiplied with phi c new predicted which you obtain from the solution minus phi c old. So, the difference between the newly obtained solution and the old value and certain percentage of that, this lambda is called the relaxation factor. Now, it could be for both explicit and implicit relaxation can be interpreted according to this. Now, there are certain things one needs to note. First is that a lambda less than 1 which will essentially becomes a under relaxation system, and this may slow down the speed of the solution or the convergence, but it increases the stability of the calculation. So, it decreases all sort of a possibility of small or spurious oscillations which can lead to the divergence of the solution. Second, lambda could be 1 which corresponds to no relaxation. If this is applied, then the complete predicted value is going to be used, because lambda 1 means the old part gets cancelled. So, the predicted value would be updated one, and this case one can use the same value what is predicted for the next iteration, but there is a issue associated with that. This can lead to instability and finally the divergence of the solver, and lambda greater than 1 which goes to over relaxation. Now, in that case sometimes it is used to accelerate the convergence, but usually decreases the stability. So, one case is increases the stability, slow down the convergence when lambda less than 1, and when lambda greater than 1 it actually increases the convergence rate, it accelerates, but at the same time it reduces the stability. So, it is a kind of a 2020 catch 2020 situation where you have to be careful, but more often most of the flows it is a under relaxation which is used for unless there is a specific kind of problem where over relaxation is required. Now, explicit under relaxation, as I said, used for under relaxing the pressure in your fluid flow problem. We will see when you move to discussion of the fluid flow problem, and then problem where the fluid properties depends on the solution and which will essentially promote the convergence. Now, also if a fluid is exposed to highly turbulent conditions, they are also sometimes the under relaxations are used. Now, the second one is implicit under relaxation. So, there are different methods, and these methods are sort of proposed by the person known as Patankar, who is one of the pioneer scientists in this field, who got people introduce this finite volume method for the fluid flow systems. So, this is named as Patankar's under relaxation. So, that is now equation that we are using is the same. So, that is our equation remain phi c nu, which is to be used, use phi c volt plus lambda phi c nu predicted minus phi c volt. So, that is the equation that we are using. Now, in this case lambda can be explicitly specified or expressed. To simply use the notation in Pattern-Kurt's under relaxation, this particular equation gets modified like phi c equals to phi c star plus lambda phi c new iteration minus phi c star. So, where phi c star is values from previous iteration. Now, phi c iteration in this particular expression is replaced by an equivalent expression which looks like then phi c equals to phi c star plus lambda, which will look like minus summation f in B c A f phi f plus B c by A c minus phi c star. So, once you rearrange this will get you A c by lambda phi c plus summation f n B c A f phi f equals to B c minus 1 by lambda divided by lambda B c plus A c phi c star. So, the discretized equation actually now gets this lambda sitting in place. So, the relaxation factor lambda, it actually here when you look at this modifies the diagonal coefficient. So, on the right hand side. So, without changing the governing equations or the changing the discretized equation mathematically, since lambda less than 1 under relaxation, it increases the diagonal dominance of the algebraic system, it enhances the stability of the iterative solver. So, this is one of the advantage of using compared to an explicit approach, this implicit under relaxation brings out that advantage, because it modifies the coefficients or the diagonal coefficients of the linear solver, which due to the under relaxation it enhances stability and the convergence become faster. So, however, one may note that the implicit relaxation applies a relation that is proportional to the diagonal coefficient. Thus, the relaxation will be larger for a larger diagonal coefficient, which translates into a larger relaxation of higher importance for smaller control volumes. So, we can see how that affects. Now, the second one we can think about E factor relaxation. So, that is E factor relaxation. In this method, the Pattern-Kurt's formulation that we have just seen, it is modified, and what it is done, we get it by rewriting the equation A c phi c equals to B c minus n b c c A phi f. So, by rewriting the equation in this following form and we use the under relaxation to get a system like A c phi c equals to lambda B c minus n b c, which is A f phi f plus 1 minus lambda A c phi c star. So, this gets modified, or the relaxation factor only applied to right hand side. Lambda is used to modify right hand side of the discretized system, and once that is used, so one can replace this under relaxation factor by some ratio like lambda equals to E by 1 plus E, then this equation becomes AC phi C equals to E by 1 plus E BC minus summation of F AF phi F plus 1 minus E by 1 plus E AC phi C star. So, you rearrange this and you will get AC 1 plus 1 by E phi C plus summation of F AF phi F BC plus 1 by E AC phi C star. So, that is what you get after doing the modification. And now, this formulation, the under relaxation effect, can be readily interpreted in terms of some artificial transient time scale which can advance phi C at each solver iteration. Now, if your time step is delta t, then characteristics time interval delta t star can be obtained, which will be related as E delta t star equals to delta t. So, the delta t star is rho c V c by A c. Now, in this particular expression where you characteristics delta t star is calculated, uses the volume of the cell center. So, this uses the time required to diffuse and convect a scalar phi c across the element. So, one can think about this E factor is equivalent to some sort of an CFL criteria or number, CFL equivalent to some sort of an CFL number. So, that one may think of in that fashion. So, now from here you can see what is happening, that time stem advancement of this E factor relaxation is dependent on the cell volume, and with the solution in smaller element can advance slowly than in a coarser element. So, this could be a detrimental to the convergence, because if your cell size, if Vc is small, then the rate of convergence also goes down. So, that is the problem. So, this is very common to use highly stretched elements with small volumes near boundary, thus forcing a critical region in the computational domain to advance a very small time step compared to the remainder of the domain. So, the straightway this applicability is that where you have a small cells and highly skewed close to the boundary, you can use this to improve the convergence. So, this is also a characteristics of the Patankar relaxation method. Now, between E and lambda, the relation between E and lambda that we have obtained is that the E is 1 by 1 minus lambda, which essentially gives lambda equals to. So, typically this range of E is between 4 to 10. So, corresponding lambda would be somewhere 0.72 or 0.75 to 0.9. So, that is a typical values what one can use. So, these are two different things. Now, the third one we can talk is the false transient relaxation. So, in this case the false transient relaxation method it is the modification of Euler first order implicit transient method. So, it is essentially obtained by modifying the Euler first order transient method. So, where the previous iteration values are used instead of the old time step values. So, as in Euler method, the diagonal dominance of the algebraic equation is increased through the addition of the pseudo transient term, which is in terms of that pseudo transient term, which was using as AC t minus del t phi c t, like that. So, to the diagonal coefficient and the pseudo old time step term, which are pseudo old time step term was used at AC t minus del t phi c star to the right hand side, and with this modification one can get this AC plus AC, this is t minus del t multiplied with phi c at time level, then f NBC AF phi f at t equals to BC at this level plus AC t minus del t and phi c star, where AC t minus del t is computed rho c BC by del t. So, it is basically an equal to the transient coefficient, which is obtained from the first order implicit Euler discretization. Now, rho density, V is the element cell volume, and this. Now, here as you can see, the large values of delta t, the added term which is it is very much, this is the term which is added is negligible, and the under relaxation effects are also quite negligible. So, the solution of the equation is same as the original under relaxed one, but if you have a very small delta t, then the term which is here becomes quite large, and this becomes the dominating over other terms, and the solution is heavily under relaxed due to small change in this value of phi c from to phi star. Now, in addition to all this, the solution to advance consistently over the entire domain, the false transient method ensures the addition of non-zero contribution to the diagonal coefficients. So, it ensures addition of a non-zero contribution to the diagonal coefficient, even in extreme cases where the diagonal coefficient is 0. So, in other way, one can think that there is no generic rule for assigning optimum under relaxation factor, as the values are used, one case may not work properly for the another case. So, this is one of the issues with the. Now, we will look at the residual form of the equation. So, residual form of equation. So, we have a discretized algebraic equation, and which is written in a very standard form, that is AC phi c plus summation of AF AF phi F equals to BC. So, this is a standard form. Now, here it can be written in correction or residual form by rearranging the terms so that the solve for the correction needed to satisfy the equation, and the way it is done. So, we say that phi c star is one value which is a value from previous iteration number 1, and then the phi c prime which is the correction needed to satisfy the above equation. So, which means I can write phi c equals to phi c star plus phi c prime. Now, with that you can put back in the actual equation, and this will become AC phi c plus phi c star, I mean prime plus star, plus summation f NBC, which will become AF phi F star plus phi F prime equals to BC. Or you can rearrange this. If you rearrange, this will become AC phi C prime plus F, which is AF phi F prime equals to BC minus AC phi C star plus summation over F AF phi F star. So, that is what you get. So, the equation system gets modified, and the right hand side you can see this is an error due to residual, and if you say that is the residual over element C, then this one can write AC phi C star plus F NBC over AF phi F prime equals to residual C. Let us say residual error over C for a particular element. This is the residual error, and then you can write that. So, this gets modified in this particular fashion. Now, then what one can do? If your solution actually converges, theoretically this guy should be 0, then my correction would be nothing. Once this gets 0, this will, the correction would be 0, then one can actually get the exact solution or reaches towards the exact solution. Now, mathematically this is equivalent to the equation that we started solving. So, equivalent to this particular equation, but this particular one, the one which we obtained for the correction, has certain numerical advantage. Now, in this form what happens, the numerical errors during the solution of the equation are slightly less than those associated with the standard form. That means the previous form, which is a standard form, and for cases where small variation are expected for large values of phi. So, that is an important advantage that you have once you write. Now, in the residual form also we can use Pattankar under relaxation. So, one can think in the residual form of Pattankar's under relaxation. So, what we have seen that relaxation factor, now residual form of the, it is implicit Pattankar relaxation, Pattankar's relaxation, which you can derive from the equation or the standard equation of this. So, that is our standard equation, and one can derive that in using Pattankar's relation. So, what you can do is that here also we have phi c, which will be corrected at phi c plus phi c prime. So, this is from previous iteration as we have used in the residual form, and this is the correction that is there. And if you put in the standard form of this equation, which is A c phi c summation over element A phi f and B c, the modified equations in Pattankar forms, it becomes like A c phi c star plus phi c prime equals to lambda B c minus summation over f n b c A f phi f star plus phi f prime, and then we have 1 minus lambda A c phi c star. So, we are using the standard Pattankar's notation and then also trying to implement the residual form, and then the system of equation will become like that. So, which you can simplify and simplify to A c phi c prime plus lambda summation of f A f phi f prime equals to lambda, which is B c minus A c phi c star plus summation of A f phi f star. So, right hand side essentially shows the residual of the original equation, and now if this is the residual error over C, so it can be reduced down to A c divided by lambda phi c plus summation of n b A f phi f prime equals to residual of C. So, that is the residual form of Pattankar under relaxation, where we have used this value of lambda, and lambda is an relaxation factor that what one uses to get the solution done. And while doing this under relaxing, actually the equation, it modifies only the diagonal coefficients, so which improves the rate of convergence. Now, any iterative solution process, it is quite important that one should be able to determine whether the solution considered is a good enough, or when the error can be estimated to below certain tolerance, or what precision the error limit to be satisfied. So, having the tools to answer any of the questions is an important ingredient for any CFD solver. So, it is what we have been, or rather our focus in and around that end of the day you must have an good CFD code which can handle all these issues that we are discussing in this lecture. So, it should be accurate, it should be stable, you get quick solution, it should be applied to multidimensional complex problem. So, all these kind of features, and once as we are moving ahead with the discussions, you can see each and every term has its own property, each and every phenomena they are treated differently. When they are put together in one single system, it becomes quite complex to deal with. Now, the other things that I would like to touch upon is the residual, which one can think about what is that residual that we have been obtaining for a particular cell. We are writing that residual C is BC minus AC phi C plus summation over NBC AF phi F. Now, it is very much clear that when the solution is reached and the converged completely and the governing equations are satisfied, this guy should tend to 0. So, this is what it theoretically supposed to do, or it is supposed to behave in that fashion. But what happens if you have issues with your numerical scheme or discretizations and other implications or implementation, then you may not get this, and that is where iteratively you keep on updating and trying to reach towards the convergence. Now, when you talk about the residuals, different code or different implementations, those are possible and people can interpret in a differently. And let us look at that. One thing you can say, one has to look at the absolute residual. And what is absolute residual? Now, as we have defined in this particular equation, the residual may be this RESC could be positive or it could be negative. Since the sign is immaterial, the absolute value of the residual, which is denoted by this, and it can be decided whether the solution. So, the absolute value of the residual res C is essentially the RC one can represent, and then one can write the RC is nothing but BC minus AC phi C plus F over NBC AF phi F. So, this absolute value can determine whether the solution has converged or not. If RC decreases with iteration, then the solution will be converging. So, that leads to the convergence. Otherwise, if the absolute value is increasing, if absolute value is increasing with iteration, then that leads to divergence. So, your convergence or divergence of the system is kind of dictated by this absolute residual, and this is one has to, and theoretically when you reaches towards the convergence, this guy. So, at convergence, this RC should be tending to 0, and then only it is guaranteed that you are getting a solution which is close to the converged solution or the actual solution. Otherwise, So, this has a quite important value, and when you are using some sort of a iterative solver, this is one of the criteria the user has to satisfy, or rather it has to be implemented inside your CFD code, such that when you are checking your errors, you have to check this error, because this can give you a clear indication which direction your solution is heading, whether it is heading towards the stable solution or it is heading towards the unstable solution, because that is how one can see the code, the behavior of the CFD code. Now, the other way one can represent the residual as the, instead of looking at the absolute residual, one can say, okay, I would be happy to look at the maximum residual. So, that is another way of looking at it. And when you say maximum residual, the maximum residual is the way it defines that if you say, then RC max is maximum of all cells of this magnitude BC minus AC phi C plus summation over all the neighboring elements. So, this essentially max over all cells, so that is RC. So, this tells you that if your maximum residual, which is say RE max less than equals to some small value, then the solution must have converged. So, that epsilon here is a small value that would be provided to your inside your code to check. So, one way to other way one can also think about that, instead of looking the absolute residual, one can think, okay, you may look at the maximum residual, then you calculate for REC, which stands for one particular cell, then you go over complete domain and look for each and calculate this absolute residual for each cell, and after doing that calculations you check what is the maximum value of that residual. So, which then you put an criteria, if that maximum residual inside the domain, that means that is the what cell which is providing you the maximum residual, whether it has fallen down or gone down the below a specified small value. If it is so, then you can estimate that you are heading towards convergence, otherwise you may think of that this may lead to the divergence. Now, alternatively one may think about that root mean square residual. So, that is another parameter which can be an indicator for convergence. So, that one can look at it, and how you represent that? You can represent that R, now RC and some sort of an RMS. So, mathematically if you write, this could be written as RC RMS equals to square root of summation over all elements BC minus AC phi C plus F NBC AF phi F, and this will go over all the cells and square of that and divide by divide by number of elements. So, you go over all the cells, take the sum of individual cells residual. So, in our terminology one can write, which is nothing but summation over all cells, and this could be R C square divided by number of elements. So, you can calculate individual cell residual and then take the square of that and get a sum over all the cells and divide by the number of cells and the square root of that. So, for convergence criteria one has to put RC RMS should be below and specified none, then solution is converging. Now, the last option which is possible is the normalization of the residuals. So, normalization of residuals. So, it is possible that the absolute residual is a strong function of phi, and therefore, the different variables can result in a different RC. So, which makes it too difficult, because if you have a multi variable system or degrees of freedom are different, let us say velocity or the scalar, they can lead to different value of RC. So, it is very difficult to see or put an criteria on the convergence or not. So, in that cases or such cases, it is better to look give an insight which can be gained through the scaling the different residuals by dividing them by their respective maximum fluxes. So, recalling the AC, one can divide that RC, which is scaled, equals to magnitude of AC phi c plus summation over NBC A phi f minus BC divided by maximum of all cells AC phi c. Now, this case, this solution converge when the maximum value of this scaled, which is RC scaled, or maximum of that for all cells less than a specified norm, then it is convergence. So, it is very common that this epsilon or the small value order of minus 4 to minus 6 minus 7 or something like that. So, it is a very small value which is specified. So, to get this calculation done or the Gatton criteria on the residual. So, one can see that you can define absolute residual, like we have done that. You can have a maximum residual of all the cells, you can look at the roots mean square of the residual, or you can normalize, and this is quite advantageous when your degrees of freedom are high. That means you have a velocity, you have some scalar and their residuals are different. So, in that case it is a good idea to look at this kind of scaled residual and put in criteria on the scaled residual to obtain the convergence criteria. So, we will stop here and then we will start the fluid flow problem in the next lecture. Thank you.